Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. My name is Liz Schaller, and I am the manager of the NIMAC, the National Instructional Materials Access Center. And I'm joined today by Alexa Miller, our NIMAC librarian, and she is going to help me with this training today. We definitely feel like when you're running through a lot of information, it helps to have multiple voices bouncing back and forth to keep it interesting. We're so happy to have all of our kind of seasoned veteran state coordinators here, as well as some new folks this year. So welcome. We hope that this will be beneficial to both audiences. We will move first through a series of PowerPoint slides where we kind of go over everything, and then we'll switch to a demo where I'll show you some of your system functionality. And at any point, you're more than welcome to ask questions. We will pause a few times for that as well. And also, just for anyone who's just joined us, we will be posting the captioned version of our training as well as the PowerPoint slides on our website. And we will send that out to you all when it is available. Before we dive into our content today, I also wanted to highlight that we have some folks here from our independent evaluator, True North. We are working with them this year, not only on our independent evaluation as part of our APR, but also on a case study where we're looking at timely delivery of accessible formats. And to that end, we have a few additional survey questions for you in our exit survey. Alexa's going to go ahead and put that link in the chat now if you want to take a look at it. So we kind of have our standard, like, quick feedback on our survey questions, but then we have a second set of questions where we're hoping that you'll be able to spend a little time thinking about your responses and giving us some information about timely delivery in your state. So we'd really appreciate if you could take a minute to complete that. And our friends at True North will also follow up after this with a friendly reminder as well. But thank you in advance for your participation. We really appreciate it. So like I said, first we'll work through a PowerPoint that goes over kind of all of our basics, definitions, make sure we're all on the same page, and then we'll switch to a demo where I'll show you your system functionality in the system. And without further delay, I'll hand it over to Alexa and she'll get started on some of those key definitions.
All right, good afternoon, folks. Thanks for joining us. We are going to jump right into the basics of the NIMAC. So what is the NIMAC? It was created by IDEA 2004 and is the National Source File Repository for K-12 textbooks and instructional materials. We make NIMAS files available for use in producing accessible formats for K-12 accessible materials. We have over 82 file sets from over 200 publishers, and all 50 states, plus the 6 outlying areas and the Department of Defense, all work with the NIMAC. So what does it mean to coordinate with the NIMAC? Well, under IDEA 2004, working with the NIMAC is optional, but as we just discussed, all states and eligible territories have opted into the NIMAC. States that agree to coordinate with the NIMAC do two things. They require NIMAS from publishers in their textbook procurement contracts, and they abide by the eligibility requirements of IDEA and copyright law in the use of NIMAS and distribution of materials produced from the files. So NIMACs and districts. Individual local education agencies do not coordinate directly with the NIMAC. However, they do indicate on their IDEA assurances whether they have chosen to coordinate each year. To provide students access to a wealth of NIMAS-sourced accessible materials, we strongly encourage that all districts opt in. IDEA requires that all LEAs opt in to meet the same legal obligations as SEAs with regard to NIMAS eligibility and textbook procurement. So you're here. What is a state coordinator? Each state that coordinates with the NIMAC designates a state coordinator. This individual has only two responsibilities. We try to keep it easy for y'all. So to opt into the NIMAC on behalf of the state by signing the NIMAC coordination agreement, and to manage, which is just adding and removing as needed, NIMAC authorized users for states. The NIMAC does not require that a coordination agreement be submitted annually. We only require a new agreement when a new state coordinator assumes the role. And so some key definitions for the NIMAC. What is NIMAS? So it was created at the same time as the NIMAC by IDEA 2004, and it stands for the National Instructional Materials Accessibility Standard. It's based on the DAISY file format, and its sole purpose is to support the production of accessible formats like Braille, large print, DAISY, audio. And as a format that requires further conversion before use, NIMAS is not distributed directly to students. That's really important to note. And so a little bit more about the NIMAS. Under IDEA, NIMAS is the only format the NIMAC is accepted or is permitted to accept. NIMAS is not generated automatically. It's not a byproduct of print or digital book production. It has to be produced separately after the book has been finalized. Publishers typically outsource the production of NIMAS to conversion vendors who specialize in this service. And another thing that's important to note, NIMAS production can take many weeks. The types of materials we receive a range of student-facing materials for use in K through 12. These materials are textbooks, workbooks, supplementary readers, and the occasional blackline masters. Generally exempt are pre-2006 titles, trade books, college textbooks, and reference books. And then we can also accept NIMAS files for some digital instructional materials. That's kind of a new thing for us. And so about those digital materials, in May of 2020, the department published a notice of interpretation permitting the NIMAC to accept NIMAS for some digital instructional materials. The NIMAS specification did not change. Only some digital products can be produced in NIMAS format. Generally, it's your static things, so like a highly interactive material or a game would not be suitable for NIMAS production. We do have NIMAS and digital materials FAQ on our webpage. I'm going to post that link in the chat here in just a little bit. And so we get our files from publishers under IDEA 2004. There was not a blanket requirement for publishers to submit files to the NIMAC. The only mechanism to require NIMAS from the publisher is the book adoption contract or purchase agreement. Including NIMAS language in all SEA and LEA contracts is essential to us ensuring that the NIMAC will receive the files students need. And requiring NIMAS from publishers is a legal obligation. So where all states and districts have coordinated with the NIMAC, that means they all are obligated under IDEA to require publishers to submit files to the NIMAC as part of any instructional materials adoption process. This is a requirement under the legislation and is not optional. We have here some sample contract language from NCADEMY, which is the National Center on Accessible Digital Educational Materials and Instruction. We do have that available on our website, I believe, or maybe a link, but that is available. So a new thing that we have noticed is state OERs and publications. The NIMAC can accept NIMAS for materials published by SEAs for use in the classroom. SEAs can have publisher accounts with the NIMAC and are welcome to submit files to us. If you have any questions or would like more information, feel free to reach out. I do know Texas and Louisiana are already on board with this and submitting NIMAS files for their students. So that's new and interesting. The NIMAC watch list is kind of my purview. So if we don't have a file that you need, we can research the item for you and reach out to the publisher to request a file if the material is within scope for the NIMAC. Authorized users and accessible media producers can just add the needed ISBN to the watch list in their NIMAC account, and we will research and or request that item for them. And so watch list versus contracts. The watch list is a really cool service and we're more than happy to provide it, but it's important to note that timely delivery is affected when the file is not already in the NIMAC. Getting a file through the watch list service can take about a month to 6 weeks and sometimes more, but that's typically the timeline we see. And so while this is an important service, it is not a replacement for including NIMAS language in contracts. And NIMAS eligibility. So who is eligible for NIMAS?
Thanks, Alexa. I think that's where we'll switch over, but let's pause and check the chat, see if we have any questions, or if anyone has anything, you're also welcome to unmute and ask it out loud as well. Let's see, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Hopefully a lot of that was information that you all already had. I think, like Alexa said, it's been interesting to us to start receiving some of these state OER programs, and that is definitely something that is an option for your state as well if you haven't already looked into it. I think in both cases, there's kind of a different SEA level contact than the state coordinator on those publisher accounts. But we're happy to kind of help you all navigate that process if you're interested in submitting your state publications to the NIMAC. That's no problem at all. All right, we'll keep going. So when we think about the eligibility requirements for NIMAS, those are also laid out in IDEA 2004. And there are really two key requirements for students to be eligible for accessible formats that are produced from NIMAS. Those two requirements are that the student must have an IEP and the student must have a qualifying disability per the eligibility guidelines of the National Library Service. So a qualifying print disability or visual impairment are required, as well as that IEP. We do get questions occasionally about the IEP requirement. One thing that has come up a few times that I just want to make clear is that students who are attending private schools are eligible for NIMAS if they maintain an active IEP. The IEP is what is essential here. If the private school is coordinating with the district and they are maintaining that IEP, then they are absolutely entitled to NIMAS sourced accessible formats. But again, that does come up from time to time. I just want to make sure that we're all clear on that. We do have the guidance, the NLS guidelines available. I think Alexa will put that link in the chat if you aren't already familiar with the updates that were made. These were made based on some changes in US copyright law made by the Marrakesh Treaty. And again, the really important thing to note here, I think, when you're looking at NIMAS eligibility is that the definition of the competent authority who can authorize that eligibility was expanded. So now the eligibility can be certified by a range of individuals listed on the slide here. Sorry, I've got really bad allergies this week. The main thing here is that the guidelines remove that requirement for the medical doctor certification and have expanded to include individuals like teachers, librarians, folks in the schools who can certify that reading disability. I know if you were with us last year, we spoke about some possible updates to the NIMAS specification. So just to follow up on that, the NIMAS specification is defined in the IDEA regulations. So updating it does require regulatory or legislative action. Originally, of course, it was intended to be an evolving specification, but of course, IDEA has not been reauthorized for many years. So that evolution has not occurred. So in 2023, we received a supplemental award from OSEP to explore some possible updates to the specification. Last year, we worked on a report of those recommendations. We sent out surveys to you all. We conducted some focus groups, and we also had an in-person stakeholder convening in DC last May. We compiled that feedback and provided a report on those recommendations to OSEP in December 2024. The department may initiate a formal process to update the specification. We will keep you updated on those updates. In the meantime, we are utilizing that input to develop some new resources for publishers and NIMAC users, folks who utilize NIMAS for accessible format production. And just to highlight, I think some of the most important recommendations that we discussed are around math tagging and image content in NIMAS. Right now, math tagging or MathML tagging is optional and not required in NIMAS. The same is true for image descriptions. Alt text or image descriptions are optional, but they're not required for NIMAS. So those are two things that we touched on and that we strongly recommend be changed if we do get some updates to NIMAS. All right. Does anyone have any questions about that? No. All right, great. Well, let's move on to just some basics. Again, these are kind of definitions as well, but just understanding the different account types that you can have with the NIMAC and some basics of how the system works. All right, so I think we've mentioned this term before, but what exactly is an authorized user? An authorized user is someone who has been designated by their state coordinator to have full access to the NIMAC repository. They're able to search and download files, or they can assign files to registered accessible media producers. They are individuals who are involved in some way in the production of accessible formats for students with print disabilities in their state. Most of the time, they are folks that are at the SEA level. Occasionally, depending on the state, there's someone at a district level, but by and large, there's someone at an SEA, possibly an instructional resource center, school for the blind, something like that. Authorized users may directly work in accessible media production themselves, or they may manage the work that's done by others. Like I said, they're usually from within the state educational structure, like a school for the blind or an IRC. I will note that Bookshare and the American Printing House for the Blind can also be designated as authorized users, and they are in many states. Most states have around 5 authorized users, and it is kind of an automatic provision in the system that each state is supplied with 5 authorized user slots. However, we can add more users for your state as needed. Many states have 6 or 7. That is no problem at all. Just reach out to us if you need to add additional authorized users so we can get those slots added to your account. Now, an authorized user, like we said, may work as an accessible media producer, but for the purposes of the NIMAC, an AMP or an accessible media producer is an organization or individual that has that AMP account with the NIMAC. This is a more restricted account that allows the user to download only those files that are assigned to them for download by an authorized user. These users do not have to be designated by a state coordinator. They can be for-profit or nonprofit, and they can also work with any state. They're not limited to work in just a particular state. So APH has an AMP account with the NIMAC, as well as many TVIs or Braille producers and districts can have accounts. It really runs the gamut. And I don't know if we've mentioned hybrid state coordinators yet in this training. Some folks here today are probably hybrid state coordinators. These are folks who may be directly involved in the state's accessible media production workflow, and they want that additional level of access in the system. So as Alexa mentioned earlier, the basic state coordinator account is pretty simple. You're just adding and deleting authorized users for your state. But for state coordinators who would also like to work as an authorized user, we can offer you a single sign-on where you can access the features for both account types. If this is something you're interested in, please reach out to us. It's pretty straightforward. All we'll need you to do is complete the limitation of use agreement for us. We'll send that over to you, and then get that back to us, and we will, it's just kind of a simple toggle in our system to turn that functionality on for you. I will also note that the hybrid account is kind of considered a bonus, quote unquote, authorized user. So that doesn't count as one of your 5 total authorized user slots that you currently have in the system as well. If this is something you're interested in or you'd like to learn more about, we do have our training session for authorized users and hybrid state coordinators next week, next Wednesday, March 12th at 2. Please join us then. You can send us questions in the meantime. We're more than happy to help. And then the last kind of account type I wanted to mention is our new, our pilot program that we're going to get started here pretty shortly. We have found that there is a need that's not being met for Braille that's really needed to be produced on the fly quickly for students when they're waiting for their transcribed Braille. So we're working on a new account type and piloting that with 4 states, Alaska, Hawaii, Maryland, and Pennsylvania. And this account type will allow the TVI to go in and request the file similarly to an AMP, and they'll be able to quickly download it and quickly convert it using their Braille software. I'm so sorry. And we'll share more information as this gets underway and when we roll that out to the rest of the states. And I'll hand it back over to Alexa.
Okay. Liz, it looks like we have somebody trying to get in, but they are stuck in the waiting room. Okay. So we are going to talk about AU account statuses. So when you first log in on your homepage, which you will see when Liz does the demo portion here in a bit, but when you log in, all of your current authorized user accounts will appear under one of 3 tabs in the system. They will appear under New, under Pending, or under Active. And so when you add a new authorized user, the process is really easy. We try to keep it super simple for you all. We know you're busy folks. All we need is the name, the email address, and the organization name for the new user. And once that is entered into the system and saved, your role is done. The rest of it is handled by the new authorized user and someone on our team. When the state coordinator saves the new authorized user information, the system immediately emails the new authorized user the registration link, and the state coordinator account, will show a status of new for the authorized user under your registrations. The authorized user will then complete the registration process in the NIMAC system using the link that was sent to them. So those registration links do expire after 10 days, and we do try to keep an eye on this on our end, but sometimes that gets away from us. You can resend it on your end. Just click the little resend button next to the user. And when the user completes the online registration, that account will then show up as pending under your account. And the limitation of use agreement. So the automated registration email also includes the NIMAC limitation of use agreement. The new user must print out the document, initial each page, fill out the authorized user section, which is 13.0, and then sign the document. They can either mail or email us the completed document, and we can now accept digital signatures, which is pretty exciting. And so once we've received that online registration and the completed LUA, we can activate the new authorized user account. Then the account will show a status of active in your state coordinator account. You will also receive an automated email notification from our system when a new account is activated by us. Login credentials. When the account is activated, the system sends the user the login ID and the password in two separate emails. If a user's email system is not letting NIMAC emails through, which sometimes happens, it is a system-generated email, and our spam and junk filters are getting I don't want to say better, much more powerful these days. So they may need to whitelist this address, and I will drop that in the chat here in a little bit. As a reminder, hybrid state coordinators do not need to receive a second set of login credentials. You will just use your same ones for your state coordinator and authorized user accounts. And so to remove authorized users, oh, did we skip something? No? Okay. All right. Well, one method of digital rights management for the NIMAC is through the fingerprinting and watermarking of files at the point of download. This marks each file with code that indicates which user downloaded the file and when. The fingerprinting and watermarking is tied to the individual account holder. For this reason, we ask that authorized users not share their credentials with others, and authorized user accounts are not transferable. When an authorized user leaves their position or role, we do request that the state coordinator delete that account from the system and create a new account for the incoming person. There is also no problem with designating more than one authorized user at the same agency. We have a couple instances of that, so that is just perfectly fine. In deleting an account in any status, new, pending, or active, can be removed by just clicking the red delete button to the right of the account in the system. That change is effective immediately. It is worth noting that users that have been deleted no longer appear in your state coordinator account. However, you can still access the information on their download activity in your state coordinator reports, which I think we'll take a look at during the demo. And this is just a screenshot of our home page. You can use the little login button up there. So I think we will move to our demo if there aren't any questions. I'm not seeing any in the chat, but feel free to speak on up.
Can I ask a really quick one? How long do they sit in pending once you create a new account? I've had one there for months.
Yeah, how about I touch on that as we go through the demo? I can show you the different screens.
Perfect.
Yeah, because that's a great question. And it actually just depends on the individual that you've added and whether or not they go in and complete their registration. So here, let me stop sharing my screen so I can pull up our NIMAC page. Okay, so actually let's go back here. So this is the screen that we showed just a minute ago, a screenshot of. This is our NIMAC informational site, and this can kind of be your entry point both to finding more information or links to resources that you can send to other individuals, as well as the place you can go to log into your account. There is a login button at the top right of the screen. So you would just click that button there. Enter your credentials. One thing to note is that your NIMAC username is not your email address. I would say that's maybe like one of our more common points of confusion because oftentimes your username is your email address, but not for the NIMAC. You do have a different username for the NIMAC. And then when you log into the system, the state coordinator account is very simple landing page where you'll have your authorized user registration. So as Georgianne mentioned, there's a pending tab. You have a new, a pending, and an active tab. So when you go in to add a new authorized user, as Alexa described, you'll hit that click add a new authorized user button. You'll go ahead and add your organization name, the individual's first and last name, as well as their email address. And then you'll hit create. Those are the only pieces of information that you need as the state coordinator to add a new authorized user. Once you do that, your job is done. You don't really have to worry about anything else. So this page here, the new page, is just for individuals who have not yet completed their online registration. When you hit that create button, that triggered in the system an automated email that went to the authorized user with a link to their online registration page. So they should go in and complete that registration. That's where they'll add their additional contact information and other details. And then the second thing that they need to do as an authorized user to register is to complete that limitation of use agreement that we described earlier. So when someone is lingering in pending, that means that they've completed the online registration, but they have not sent us their limitation of use agreement yet. So sometimes folks stay there for a while. We do have, on the administrative side, we have that pending tab 2 where we can see who is waiting. And so we do follow up with folks periodically to make sure that they go ahead and get that completed. Then once we receive that, you will see your authorized users show up here under the active tab. So again, pretty straightforward. You also are able, if you have someone who is here in this new tab for a long time, and you can see that their email link has expired. I think they last for 2 weeks. You can always on your side also resend them that email and kind of prompt them, maybe it was over the summer or like winter break or something like that, and they just missed the email. You can always resend it yourself as well. So this is kind of your basic landing page where you'll go in and you'll add and remove your authorized users. I also wanted to show you your account information. So if you go to the top right of your screen under user information, you have your My Account button. And this is where you can go to see your own contact information as well as the contact information for the organization that you are registering on behalf of. This is information that we manage on our end. So these things are not things that you can edit yourself. You actually will need to send us an email and then we will go in and edit it for you. And part of the reason that we do that is because not only does your contact information live in our system, but we also have a public-facing state coordinators directory so that teachers or other folks at LEAs can quickly find their NIMAC state coordinator and reach out to you. And so anytime that we make an update to your account in the system, we make that same edit on this public-facing page. So we need to kind of make sure that we're on top of when your contact information changes so that we can make those edits appropriately. I did also want to show you have a couple of report options in the system. I think Alexa mentioned those. One is an all authorized users download report. And this report you can organize by total downloads or by authorized user account, and just add a date range and it'll export to a CSV file if you're interested in seeing the authorized user downloads for your state for a particular time period. We have a similarly an AMP assignments for authorized users report as well. So you can select any of your authorized users here. One thing to note is you will also be able to select authorized users that have been deleted. So authorized user accounts that have historically existed for your state, you can find here. You are really the custodian of your state's state coordinator account. We don't create new state coordinator accounts when new state coordinators come on board. So any authorized user who has served your state should be listed in this list here when you log in. So you'll be able to see the files that they assigned to an accessible media producer, and you can sort that report a few different ways as well, and also export it to a CSV. And then finally, I did want to show you the search. It does come up sometimes. I think state coordinators get a whole variety of questions, and I think occasionally folks do reach out to you looking for a specific accessible instructional material. So I did want to show you quickly that the best search that you can do of the NIMAC is the ISBN, unhyphenated, so remove the hyphens, and you can search here by ISBN. But it is often the case, I think, especially when like a teacher or a district reaches out to you, that they're looking for just kind of a program. Maybe they know the grade level that they need, maybe they know the copyright year, but they may not know the specific ISBN, particularly because for the NIMAC, we receive the ISBNs that are printed on the material, the print book ISBN that is on the material. But if a district has adopted a curriculum and maybe they've purchased the bundle license for something, maybe the teacher or the district doesn't have that individual print book ISBN yet. So in those cases, you can search by the program, you can sort with the filters by the copyright year, by the grade level, by the language, and hopefully narrow down and find what you're looking for. We always encourage you to reach out to us too, particularly in those cases where you don't have the specific ISBN. We can always get in touch with our publisher contacts and make sure that we're locating the correct material for you. Okay, that was a pretty quick tour of the site. Does anyone have any questions about anything? Okay, I'm not seeing any. That's great. Well, I'm glad. If you do have any, if you think of one after the fact, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Alexa's going to put that link in the chat again for anyone who joined us late. This is our exit survey, which is very important for us as we're developing our trainings, making sure that they're tailored to your needs. We also have some additional questions in the second half of the survey about timely delivery of accessible formats. These are part of a case study that we're working on with our independent evaluator this year. We would really appreciate it if you could take a minute or two to think about your answers to those questions and respond to the survey. We'll leave it open for several days and we will follow up with you about it. And we just so appreciate your responses to that survey.
Liz, it looks like we do have a question. Kia, would you like to unmute and ask?
Yeah, please do.
Oh, it looks like she's been trying to help TSVIs open NIMAS files to make a large print file. How do you open NIMAS files?
Okay, so creating large print from NIMAS is very complicated, and it's really not something that individuals take on themselves. Actually, in situations where the districts or schools don't have any other resources, sometimes folks will download the Word files from Bookshare and then use those. So Bookshare uses NIMAS files to produce their formats. They have an automated process for doing that. So we do know that a lot of folks will do that when they don't have any other resources to produce large print. But most of the time for agencies that produce large print from NIMAS, they have InDesign or some other expensive software and a rather complicated workflow to do it. A NIMAS file is an XML file with all of the text of the material and then all of the images separately. It has no structure that resembles the book itself until it is translated by software and then further manipulated by an accessible media producer. So it's unfortunately there isn't a quick conversion process. The quick conversion process is really for Braille because you can take the XML file, the NIMAS XML file, and import it into Braille software and do a quick conversion that way. I hope that answers your question. Okay, yeah. So when it comes to transcribing, you can use the XML file directly into Braille Blaster, which is free Braille translation software, or it can also be imported directly into Braille 2000 or Duxbury as well. Yeah, large print, unfortunately, is tricky. I will say, if your students can benefit from digital formats, there is the free Daisy pipeline. We have that like kind of a little tutorial on how to use it on our website as well. And that quickly converts NIMAS files to EPUB. So if your student can utilize EPUB, maybe they have a web reader that they can customize and benefit from, then they can do that, and that is free, a free tool that's available.
I just posted the pipeline link in case
Oh,
anybody finds that helpful. It's in the chat.
perfect. Thank you, Alexa. Great. Does anyone else have any questions? Well, all right. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. Like I said, we will caption and post this recording along with the slides for you all. It'll probably be available in about a week, and we will send that out to you when it is available. And in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're at NIMAC at aph.org, and we're really happy to see you all today.